guys. Welcome to episode 35. I think it is now, isn't it? 35?
Yeah, we'll go with that.
We'll go with that. If it's wrong, you'll probably see it in the title anyway. But episode 35, Grapplers Academy podcast. Another week where we're unable to record techniques, but we're still here, just providing some conversation around Jiu Jitsu. We've been talking off camera a little bit about, was it Gordon Ryan attacking Keenan Cornelius out of the blue?
Yeah, he's at it again, isn't he? So pretty much any opportunity that he can when he wants a fight coming up, he just starts talking shit about everybody and anybody in the jiu-jitsu industry. And his pretty much main target for the past couple of months has been Andre Galvao, unsurprisingly, obviously, because that was lined up for the 2021 super fight at the ADCC. Whether or not that will be going ahead this year remains to be seen. I hope it does, to be honest. That could be an exciting thing to happen for 2021. But yeah, I saw he was talking shit about not only Barbosa, who recently had a match and did what Gordon Ryan was saying was a questionable armbar. It was a bit of a questionable armbar, but I mean, I don't think it warranted going off on it as much as it did. But yeah, he was going off on Keenan again, apparently saying that he's never won anything. Not been as big of a presence in jiu-jitsu as Gordon Ryan has over the past couple of years. And we've talked about this before as well, haven't we? Because I think Keenan's done a lot for the jiu-jitsu community as a whole. Whether or not he's been as successful as Gordon Ryan has in a lot of these invitational matches or like the sub-series matches. Think about everything that he's done with Jiu-Jitsu X now, and all the Keenan online stuff. He puts a lot out there for the community, and I think he does a lot in general for the jiu-jitsu community.
Yeah, definitely. He does a lot out there as well for jiu-jitsu athletes as well. Like Gordon Ryan, he's got himself in quite a fortunate position where he's not necessarily he's in high demand from a lot of tutorial DVDs, a lot of sponsorships, and a lot of high-end matches. Like, he's in high demand, so he's almost kind of letting that get to his head a little bit, and I think he believes he's bigger than the sport at the moment, if I'm honest. Whereas if you look at what Keenan's done, he's been, I'd arguably, like, he's the only person he's lost to in the finals has been, it's Leandro Low, into his main sort of nemesis in the gi.
Keenan in the gi. Yeah. I mean, he did lose out in 2017 to Gordon Ryan at ADCC as well, didn't he?
Yeah, like, because that was going to be my point of, like, Keenan's worked to be a master in both disciplines. And I'd argue to say that he's probably top 10. Some could argue top 5 across both disciplines. And he's rightly deserved that title. Like, he's been consistent. He's great at educating people. He may not have the same accolades that, say, Gordon Ryan's got, but Gordon Ryan's mastered one discipline. Whereas
there's not really too much of an argument to make that there's anybody better than Gordon Ryan at that weight class or the higher weights in the no-gi. But I think what's impressive about what Keenan's done over the past couple of years is obviously what he's done in competition, as well as building his personal jiu-jitsu empire with his school. Obviously he's had his separation from Atos as well in that period of time. And what he's doing now with building up Jiu-Jitsu X and supporting other players and instructors in the community and giving them the platform to get out there and provide their information as well is great.
And it seems like they're getting a fairer share than possibly they would get elsewhere as well. Which is kind of like, it's like a for the people by the people kind of brand into.
Yeah, and also he's putting loads out there for free. There's loads of content on his YouTube pages and channels, and what he was doing early on in lockdown as well. Some of the funny stuff he was putting out about street jiu-jitsu with the hoodies. It's always quite entertaining, so always good fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, like I say, for me, it goes back to he's actually accomplished across both disciplines and recognised as a top athlete across both disciplines.
Yeah.
And when it does come to that, all we're seeing is Gordon Ryan shy away from the gi. What was it 2-3 years ago? He said, "Give me a year, train up in the gi, and I'm going to win the world championships."
I mean, for as much as you would like to, everybody's got their preference.
Yeah, oh yeah, obviously the preference, but like what I'm trying to say is like you can't be a self-proclaimed king or self-proclaimed sort of pound for pound number one when there's people like Andre Galvao, Felipe Pena, Lucas Barbosa, Keenan Cornelius, Josh Hink. Like there's a whole heap of athletes, Leandro Lowe, Buchecha, who have won the top of the sport in both disciplines.
Yeah, well, that's the point that I was just going to make as well.
Oh, sorry.
Just summed that up nicely. It's like literally everybody else who you would consider to be the GOAT has done it in both disciplines, to some degree. That certainly doesn't diminish from what he's been able to do in the no-gi, because you look at his record and it speaks for itself. But don't be so out there talking shit about everybody.
Yeah.
When you shine away from the gi matches. I'm sure he's got a great gi game. And it almost begs the question of why not just come out and play it and then shut people up even more.
It's probably fair.
Well, especially when you look at there is a big difference in terms of like the way that gi and no gi is played at those higher levels. At the lower levels, at local tournaments, blue, white, purple belt, there might not be that much of a difference between gi and no gi game, although you do start to see the separation there. I think even more so when you get to that higher level at black belt and you're talking about world championship style play. It's it's almost like two different disciplines altogether, and to be able to do both effectively, like those guys do, Keenan, Kanan, and pretty much everybody, it makes it almost even more impressive. And Cyborg's another good one as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a lot of names we can reel off where, when we're talking overall grapplers and the rankings, it's going to be very hard to put Gordon Ryan top 10, even top 15, when you've got the likes of Lepre, Torres, Galvao, Marcelo, you've got a lot who have done everything in both disciplines and have won notable titles.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of raises the topic of conversation a little bit as well about how important and how valid are the IBJJF tournaments, because what you're talking about there with all the gi stuff, it is probably more notably IBJJF stuff, Worlds and Masters, and then with ADCC being every 2 years, and then a lot of the other matches that he's put out has been super fights. It does bring up the argument of how important are tournaments in terms of cementing your legacy.
Yeah. And it's great having the really good super fight record, but when it does come down to it, tournaments are a tougher proving ground.
Yeah.
Which makes his earlier tournament success and his recent tournament success very impressive. But just for me, it's a simple case of just sort of put up or shut up at the end of the day.
I think on a wider topic, and you've said this before as well, and aside from just the performances and what they do on the mats, I think also what you're doing off the mats is equally as important. And one thing that Keenan does well, for example, does a lot for the guys in the beginning of that jiu-jitsu journey, kind of getting them on the path and quality instructional stuff for beginners, bringing them in. You can see he's put a lot of focus on his Legion Jiu-Jitsu in his club, and a lot of focus on bringing people from white belt through. Whereas obviously some of the technique stuff that Gordon's putting out with BJJ Fanatics, you could probably say is more at that intermediate to higher level end of where people are going to be picking that up in the sport as well. And you think about how many eyes are going to be falling on that at the higher and the lower end of it in terms of levels of experience. And the more people that are actually buying into that content There's probably more of a market for that at the lower end of experience, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And it sort of brings more people into the sport, which at the end of the day is good for everyone.
Yep.
Means there's more people entering tournaments, there's more people purchasing seminar tickets, there's more people watching and subscribing to the matches, and there's more people just involved in the sport in general.
I was having a conversation about this with a friend of mine the other day, and they were didn't know really a lot about jiu-jitsu, and they were saying, you know, they were watching some stuff on YouTube, and they were like asking me about wanting to get involved, and they were like, oh, so you know, with the gi, do you only have to put the gi on if you're going to compete? Like, do you just wear the shorts and t-shirt if you're training? Like, there was quite a bit of confusion there about the difference between the two. So I really just made it as simple as I could for them and said, easiest way to think about it is like wearing the gi is like if you've ever watched a judo in the Olympics, and the no gi is if you've ever like watched wrestling in the Olympics. But we also do the submissions, or the main thing is that we go for the submissions rather than just for the takedown. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I think that's the most oversimplified way that I could have come up to explain it to him. Yeah,
no, it's quite a good sort of like knowledge, like the description of the disciplines, to be fair, because there is the argument that they're the same, but then also there is the argument that they're two different disciplines, which is why they have no gi brackets and gi brackets in tournaments.
Yeah.
Because usually, like, I think me and you have both same outlook on it, where it's gi grappling and no gi grappling, and that kind of encompasses every single discipline within that. And whether like judo comes under gi grappling, sambo can probably come under both kinds of grappling, freestyle wrestling going to come under no gi grappling, like that. Like, I think to people who train, that's a fairly fair simplification of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of misconceptions for jiu-jitsu in general. I just think a lot of people don't know what it is or what it's about. How many times have you had to... I almost just go like, yeah, I do judo.
Yeah.
Like, almost not even worthwhile spending the time explaining to somebody what jiu-jitsu is, because nobody knows what jiu-jitsu is.
I think most times you get the karate hands and the sort of hey-ya like noise and things like that when you tell people what they're doing, you're sort of like, and you're like, ish, sort of.
Jiu-jitsu gets a lot of shit in general, doesn't it? Like, if somebody sees you in a gi, they think, why are you an adult in karate pants?
Yeah.
They're like, what are you teaching a kids class? What's going on here?
Are you going to be doing punches in the air and kicks? It's like, no, we kind of wrestle in pajama suits.
Yeah, which makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so most of the time we don't break blocks or like split wood with our hands. We like wrestle in the cuddle in pajamas. And if we're not wearing pajamas, then we're wearing like fancy leotards. Do you want to come down and do it?
When you sort of talk about that, like, to most people, I think because being that close in a sporting sense for a lot of people is quite an alien concept, and they're not really keen on, like, a lot of people who haven't done it or don't really fully get it aren't keen on being that close to somebody.
Yeah,
which it's kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it is kind of funny to watch in like a beginner's class when you're sort of like maybe doing like a turtle drill, or I try to avoid like sort of brand new starters coming in around a guard series, just because it's a bit of a sensory overload for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas turtle, it's like chest to back.
Yeah,
it's a bit more. It's a bit easier to make that transition into.
Yeah, I think some of the less awkward positions to start off with for complete beginners is like back control, like seated back control stuff, or even side control. It's pretty easy for people to get their head around if you're inside the guard, like, and especially if it's with female training partners and male training partners are mixing as well. That can be a bit awkward. Like, blokes don't. It's such a bizarre position to be in for most people. Like, they can't dissociate the position from actually the practicality of what you're doing in the class, like the reason why you're doing it. So it's really not a good introduction, I don't think, to put somebody in that position to begin with, although it probably is one of the more important positions to learn properly for a beginner in jiu-jitsu.
Definitely.
But just to get your head around I think it's all right to say uncomfortable. I think people are uncomfortable in those positions when they come into a class to begin with.
Yeah. I think as well, like a lot of people don't like using the word, but like it's a very intimate sport.
Yeah.
Because you're essentially trying to strangle each other whilst trying to grapple and pin each other down. And
I was talking about somebody about Thai boxing the other day as well, and they were like, "Oh, like when your pads get, like when your mitts get covered in sweat and you kind of like knocking sweat in each other's eyes. It's horrible, isn't it?" It's like you've never done jiu-jitsu, have you? And you're like, "I'm going to sit on your chest and drip sweat into your face."
I think I've had like every hole on my face had sweat in it, like eyes, nose, mouth, both ears.
And if it's not that, if you've got the gi on, basically imagine going to the kitchen and get the roughest tea towel you've got in the kitchen, pop towel, and just rub that on your face for 5 minutes and see how much you like that.
Yeah.
And if you like it, you're probably suitable for coming down for a gi class.
But it's also still like, if you don't like it, still come down and give a gi class a go.
Yeah, you might not like it on the first attempt, but give it 3 months, and when your skin's toughened up a little bit. I would probably equate this to like going to the gym, and when you go to the gym and you start building up calluses on your hands from lifting the bar. At first, you don't like it. You're like, "Oh, my hands are sore. Look at this, I've got a blister." 3 months later, guess what? You don't give a shit, and you're going around, walking around, showing like everybody how rough your hands are. You're like, "You're out lift weights."
Yeah, you sort of like, you almost sort of kind of miss it when you don't have the calluses. You're kind of like, "Oh, I've lost everything I've trained for. My hands are no longer like sandpaper."
Yeah, we've ever had a bit of time off training jiu-jitsu as well, and you come back and like you're just bruised for the first week afterwards, and you're like, "I don't remember being bruised normally. Like, have I got soft or what's going on here?"
It's like, no, my skin's just got detrained.
Yeah.
Like worst ones, like I always get like a red mark, probably starting from above my eyebrow all the way down to like a cheek's kind of like a C, and I get it on both sides of my face. Nicole always goes mad at me because whenever we've like got a date planned, I'll have a black eye. And like, I remember at one point I had a bruise on my forehead here.
Yeah.
Just because I use my head a lot as well. Like you noticed that whenever we roll, like I use my head as like an extra arm.
I mean, when he says it like that, that's being nice. He's a dirty bastard. He's always headbutting me. And, I might be about to get a sub on him and he just throws a quick headbutt. "Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry, mate." Tell you what else you and your guys are good at as well. Eye pokes. You must have been watching some Krav Maga stuff.
Oh, the toe ones are better.
The toe one, that was what I was going to say. You remember when I almost got my fucking laser eye surgery done with, whose toe was it? Was it Josh's toe?
I think it might have been Dom. Was it Dom?
Jake,
yeah, that was it, Jake.
Yeah, I almost got laser eye surgery done for free with this cartwheeling toe. I mean, aside from me nearly becoming blind, it was quite impressive.
Oh, yeah. Like the precision that was required.
I mean, I think jiu-jitsu is full of absolute misconceptions, and this is probably a bit of, we're walking into a bit of a minefield here.
Yeah.
In terms of how we're going to navigate this one. But like, aside from just the misunderstanding of what the sport is, I think another one is like, in terms of that intimate nature of the sport as well, and people being uncomfortable with it. There's a lot of connotations as well about, you get a lot of gay jokes with jiu-jitsu, don't you?
Yeah, like loads.
And I don't know where that comes from, because like out of all the martial arts as well, the one that you could get fucked up by the most being grappling, people like to say it's a gay sport, and I'm not saying that in a negative way, but a lot of people throw that out there.
Oh, I think it's a lot of the time it's from a misunderstanding. It's also like a lot of it's from kind of like other men not really knowing how to, like, how you can be almost that close to another individual,
Yeah.
without there being some sort of connotation with it.
What I'd say to that and those guys is you are clearly not comfortable enough with your own sexuality that you can't go and have a grapple with another dude and not make it weird. You know, it's just, and I think the main thing to say for that is like actually just come down and do the class.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest as well, actually, when we start talking about this, I think that's a big off-putting thing for a lot of women coming doing jiu-jitsu, because it's hard to dissociate the closeness of the positions from actually what's going on. And when you actually come down to a class, you realise that there's no sexual energy in the class. It's not there at all. Even if you're in the most intimate, awkward position you could think you might be in, there's nothing going on there. It's like, this guy's trying to sub you. That is it.
Yeah.
Like, you want the submission. Nothing weird.
But it's kind of hard to tell someone who's never really done it or been in that position that that's the reality of it. Because all they see is the positions and not the actual intricacies of the positions. They just see that's mount, that's somebody between someone's legs. What's going on there when they're in that sort of folded over position, like when you're talking about turtle. There's a lot of just misconceptions in general about the positioning.
Yeah. I've got a funny story about that. I mean, this doesn't back up what we're trying to say at all, but I think it's worthwhile saying because it's funny. We were, it was a Friday night and we were doing a class, and the class was around like turtle drills and positions in turtle. So instructors in the middle of the room. One of my mates, Mark, is like down being the body who's getting the drill done on them. So he's down in turtle. My instructor's like up behind him in like a semi-kneeling position behind him while he's down on all fours. And there's probably about 15 of us sat around in a circle watching this technique. And a lady comes upstairs looking for the gymnastics studio that's also up there, opens the door into a room where these two guys down in that turtle position with the instructor knelt behind and 15 other people sat around. He walked in, the room went into complete silence, and then she just slowly closed the door and backed out with the most scared look on her face, like she just walked into a Star Wars bar. So that doesn't back it up at all. No. I think of a more serious point to take from that. Like, if anybody's watched the UFC, you can watch it and know that what they're doing on the floor when they're doing that is pretty much almost exactly the same as what we're doing in jiu-jitsu without the striking.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee that there's nothing sexual going through their mind while they're doing that in the octagon. So I don't know whether you've ever had the same before from like girlfriends or whatever, like, oh, do you roll with the girls? Like almost like you shouldn't be rolling with the girls. Because of course it would be sexual. Like,
yeah, I've had that question before, and it's sort of like, it's a hard one to explain because there's like that almost kind of like, again, if they're not trained, they don't have that familiarity of, oh, okay, so it's just sport. It's just like going for a kickabout.
Yep.
But like I said, I can sort of understand it from the point of view as well, where they're like, them positions are a little bit funny.
Yeah.
And you're having sort of like go into the full explanation of actually, no, this is what's happening here, and sort of talking them through the motions.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's very difficult to get that through to somebody if they've not come down and trained. So the answer is everybody should go and train jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Long story short, train jiu-jitsu, train gi, train no gi.
Train it all, and don't be a massive troll if you get good in one discipline. Be a troll when you're the champion of both disciplines.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at it as well, think about another person who's exclusively doing no-gi, Craig Jones. Like, he likes to talk a lot of shit as well, but there's a lot of banter there with it.
Oh yeah, like he's not like with Craig Jones, there's a lot less malice in what's being said.
Yeah.
Whereas with Gordon, everything's said with malintent. It's like almost like he sort of wishes ill will on the people who he's talking about.
Yeah. I know it's probably likely never going to happen in terms of a serious match now, like it has done in the past. But I'd like to see a rematch of them two again, like a serious match.
No, that would be good. That
EBI
I do
match
think that
was
Gordon takes it, though, if I'm
legendary.
honest.
Say again, sorry, mate.
So I do think Gordon takes it, though, if they have a match.
Quite possibly, but it'd be an exciting match and definitely be worthwhile seeing.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And I think as well, like even more so now that they're training together in terms of regular training partners, like we were talking about the other week, that increased familiarity of them knowing each other's games inside and out would definitely help the better player out, because these takes out that unexpected nature of what the other guy's doing. When like Craig Jones was not training with them more frequently, there was a bit more of an unexpected nature of like what he was going to go for in his entries. But now that they're pretty much training together like day in, day out, all of that's gone, and they pretty much know each other's games inside out.
Yeah, I think that could make it either go one or two ways, doesn't it? It could send them either really boring matches, or it could make them have like really more exciting matches where they kind of throw caution to the wind. But that's not really been Gordon's sort of forte recently, has it? He's been more of a cautious player who will sort of almost figure his opponent out before he'll actually go in for any wins.
I think it depends what sort of time frame match it is, isn't it? Because like I think a good example of what you would consider an exciting match from two really close teammates is Gary Tonin and Gordon Ryan from the last ADCC. Now, obviously, in that match, Gary Tonin was really open to like playing quite a open, free flowing game, and got his back taken pretty quick as a result of that. And there was a lot of, I remember watching and listening to the commentary, and they were skeptical about, did he give his back up on purpose? But I think it was just the flow of the nature of the match. He was open to being a little bit more relaxed with it.
Oh, definitely. I think with that in mind as well, like Gordon didn't go in there with I'm going to play free flowy. I'm coming here to win the title. And I think that's probably where Tonin went differently with sort of where he lost it, really.
Yeah, he had a really exciting tournament though, didn't he? In his weight bracket, and coming into that absolute as well. Not to mention that there was like a 25 kilo weight difference between them.
Oh no, definitely. But like, I don't think Tonin gave his back up for free.
Definitely not. No, if you watch the match back after that initial bit of talk about him giving it up, it was just he'd stepped in for like a saddle leg entry, and then Gordon had just hit the timing right and managed to get on his back. But I mean, talk about getting people into jiu-jitsu and showing them people to look at who are exciting. Gary Tonin's got to be right up there on the list.
Oh, 100%. Like, there's no way that you can not watch a Gary Tonin match and not be inspired to train. Especially if you've got someone there sort of like explaining to you. So when they've got good commentators and they're sort of explaining what's going on, you probably will get a lot more buy-in from watching the likes of Gary Tonin.
Yeah, I mean, very different from watching like an IBJJF gi tournament where it's like pass for points and then hold for 10 minutes. You watch a Gary Tonin match and it's going to be exciting. Paul Harris match on Polaris, pretty much every single one of his ADCC matches. I think it was the fight of the tournament, that ADCC last time against Caruso, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Either that, or I'd even put the Torres match there as well. Yeah,
amazing. Really exciting to watch, and another guy who's not as active anymore, but a similar sort of playful nature, Jeff Glover from back in the day. Yeah. And I think that's more what like jiu-jitsu is like in the training room, isn't it? Like free flowing, playful. That's probably a better representation of what training's like compared to high level tournament. And I think that's another reason why like sometimes judo is a little bit less exciting to watch, because when you've got two people who are at a high level, kind of almost cancels each other out. And because it's for an important tournament or a medal or money, they're not willing to be playful and experiment with stuff. To give that open opportunity, and which also makes the argument why it's sometimes more interesting to watch like a purple belt match than it is to watch like a black belt tournament match, because there's going to be less. It's going to be more open, a bit more reckless.
Yeah, and it's almost like still like they've got something to prove as well.
Yeah.
Like, whereas the black belts, they've got everything to lose, so they don't open the game up at all.
Yeah. I used to think about this when I used to watch a lot more college American football than I watched NFL, because for the exact same reason. They're trying to be exciting because they're trying to get their name out there, trying to score a lot of points, trying to get a good record up, so they're going to be a more interesting prospect for the draft. And the players are just a lot more creative because of that, because they're younger, they're more hungry. You know, once you've got your contract and you're an NFL team, like you're almost playing not to lose your position rather than chase that position. And it's an interesting dynamic in terms of what plays out.
Yeah, because like you've got your position, you've got your paycheck. You need to preserve that as opposed to, again, chasing that big dream of it.
Yeah. And I think jiu-jitsu is fun and it should be exciting. And you know, if I don't know anybody who's listening to this podcast who's not heard it, maybe you've been referred to that you should listen to it by a friend. But like, go and watch exciting matches. Gary Tonin is a perfect example. Go and watch some of that sort of stuff, and then like even watch playful rolling stuff on YouTube, because that's a much better example of what you're going to experience coming to the gym rather than the tight, pinchy submission stuff that you might see in high-level tournament. That high-level tournament play is not what goes on in the gym for 90% of the time. No. And even with those high-level guys, they're not training like that for the majority of the time. It's playful and creative.
Oh, definitely. And if you want a great example of like a white belt versus black belt, there's a great video of Ashton Kutcher and Craig Jones rolling on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that'd inspire people to get down and train, but it's entertaining to watch nonetheless.
It's been a while since we mentioned him. I thought I'd have.
Yeah, it's been at least 2 weeks, hasn't it? Well, I think that's a perfect note to wrap up there, mate. You managed to sneak in again for another week. Go and check us out on the Grapplers Academy. If you want to check out Simon's most interested topic, go and check out Craig Jones BJJ on Instagram. If you want some high-level expert training tips, Ashton Kutcher on Instagram.
Yeah.
For us, mate, hit us up with some more knowledge.
And I say, don't forget to follow us at the Grapplers Academy across all social media platforms. Hit that subscribe button, hit that share button. And if you want to be notified whenever we've got some new videos up, there's a little bell next to subscribe. Hit that and change it to always. And you'll be notified as soon as we've got a video uploaded.